Good evening, and you're very welcome to another Around the Grounds here at Finalwhistle.ie on this lovely Friday evening. April Fool's Day across the country today. Many clubs posting online to try and trick their supporters. But tonight they were in action across both the Premier and the First Division. And we have 10 games for decision tonight with reports coming from around the different grounds across the country. All our reporters scattered in the different locations. Starting off, we have the game between Dundalk and UCD at Oriel Park. Dundalk only have one win this season. They were taking on a struggling UCD outfit this evening at Oriel Park. But all of the action for us is Kieran Callan.
Well, I'm not in my usual surroundings of the press box of Oriel Park this evening, but I can report here live for you this evening what happened. Dundalk got what we can only be described as a routine 2-0 win against UCD. There was no April Fool's or joke in relation to this one. Dundalk were very much in control of this tie for most of the game. They got the opening goal after 16 minutes. A fantastic ball between Robbie Benson and Patrick Hoban was fed into Daniel Kelly. It looked like Daniel Kelly wasn't going to make it, but with a delightful chip over the UCD keeper gave the opening scoring. But that's not where the action finished, particularly in the first half, as Stephen Bradley and Robbie Benson both hit the frame of the goal, which in a game that 3-4, 5-0 would not have flattered Dundalk this evening. Dundalk went into a big push in the second half after UCD kind of slowly started to come their way back into the game as the first half near the end. However, in the second half, a fantastic cross from Lewis Macari on the right-hand side met Patrick Hoban at the back post. He slotted it past the UCD keeper with his left foot to make it 2-0. And from then, Dundalk just went into that kind of illustrious, as they say, third gear, controlled the game, controlled the tempo, and saw the game out. They would have seen, and I think that it was done by the commentary on LOI TV, it would have done UCD absolutely no favours if Dundalk FC were to beat this team 3 or 4, even 5-0 this evening. It wouldn't have done anything for UCD's confidence. Dundalk controlled the game, got the 3 points, and move on to next week against St. Patrick's Athletic.
Perfect, Kieran. Thank you for that report from the Dundalk game. Now, looking ahead, we move towards Sligo, where they were in action tonight, taking on Shelbourne. Sligo, of course, sitting in second in the table before going into tonight's action. They were looking to continue their impressive run of form in the division. Watching all of the action for us at the showgrounds was Sean Dunn.
Yeah, finished up 1-0 here to Shelbourne. Really uneventful game. Poor all round, to be honest. Shelbourne well organised. Rovers couldn't get a foot on the ball whatsoever throughout the whole game. Soft penalty to give away. Dan Carr converted easily. That was it. It was a very, very uneventful game. Apart from that, neither team had many opportunities on goal, and just a very bad result for Sligo Rovers tonight. But Shells will be delighted going away with the 3 points. It turned. They were well organised, done what they had to do, and got away with the win. Really disappointing night for Sligo Rovers, though.
Perfect, Sean. Thank you for that report from that game, of course. That was a big result for Shelbourne. That's only their second win of the season so far. So big 3 points tonight for Damien Duff's side. Now another side, this time in the First Division, looking to get their first points of the season, were Athlone Town. They were at home tonight against Bray Wanderers. Athlone not in the best of form, but they were looking to try and get a result tonight. With a report from all of the action at the Athlone Town Stadium is Sean Comer.
Diarmuid full time here in Athlone, and Athlone have the first point of the season. It ends 1-1 between them and Bray Wanderers. They went 1-0 down in this one and didn't take long for Bray to get going. In the 13th minute, Athlone got caught trying to play it out from the back. A lofted ball forward was intercepted by a Bray head. The header set Curtis Byrne through on goal upon his Athlone return. Schlingerman came down to close the angles, and he was protesting for an offside as he was coming out. It looked contentious, to be fair, but the flag never went up, and Curtis Byrne fired it by Schlingerman to make it 1-0. About 4 minutes later, Rob Manley had a good chance after a header down in the box fell to him, and he blasted it over. To be honest, he should have made it 2-0. Athlone didn't have a lot of great chances until around after the half-hour mark in the first half. At one stage, I think in the 33rd minute, Thomas Alua went bombing down the left wing here, a very good run, and he squared it across to Carlton Ubazunu, and he never got the shot off. It looked like the ball kind of got caught under his feet. I'm not sure, whatever. He just missed his cue. And it was a disappointing one for Athlone. There was a pair of Bray half chances. Also before the half-time whistle, there was a diagonal ball to Fox and a layoff to Manahan, but both of them were kind of similar chances in the sense that when it came time to shoot, they just hit their shots over. In the 41st minute, Success Edegon got the ball on the right-hand side, and he fired a ball across the face of the Bray goal. It was kind of shot/cross, but nobody managed to get onto the end of it. Went into halftime all square. But about 10 minutes into the second half, Athlone got a reward. It was Thomas Lua again. Looking dangerous. He got the ball on the edge of the area and he took it onto his left foot and he slotted it by. It was a really, really nice finish. And Athlone probably deserved it on the balance of play. But in the last half hour, there just wasn't a lot of clear-cut chances for either side. They attacked. Both sides were looking to win the game. Neither seemed like they were content to settle for the draw. In fairness to them, but neither really got that breakthrough. So I'd say the 1-1 here at the end is a fair result.
Perfect, Sean. Thank you for that report from Athlone. Now moving toward Galway, where Galway were in action against Cove this evening. Galway, of course, looking to continue the pressure toward Cork City at the top of the table, looking to keep their rivals in check. Of course, they have the game in hand as well. With a report from all of the action at Eamon DC Park is Jonathan Higgins.
Yes, Diarmuid, Galway United back in home comforts, but the result didn't pick up from that dreadful performance in Longford last weekend. Galway in the end got the result that they needed, scrappy, I suppose you could say stereotypical John Caulfield 1-0 victory, but it was a game, again, like the encounter in the Midlands last week. It wasn't certainly one for the purists, a real scrappy affair. Galway initially did start off with a little bit of a dive in their attack. They pushed forward to good avail, and for the opening 10 minutes, looked like this might be a promising night. Another large crowd here in Eamon DC Park. Of course, the first of a doubleheader after 2 games on the road, 2 games to come here as well. And crowds have been vocal here so far this season with Galway United. But a couple of half chances. Manu Dimas went close. He was back in the team. He had a couple of efforts shot. It was an Ed McCarthy shot that was blocked as well. There was another McCormack who had his effort saved over the bar. Wilson went close a couple of times. Galway went stereotypical, quite long, direct. The longer the first half went on, it was actually the Wayside Cove that seemed to grow into the game. They grew with confidence, and it was a bit of a damp squid, the truth be told, at halftime. Second half wasn't much better. Galway pushed on. They did eventually get the all-important breakthrough in the 68th minute. It was a corner. Stephen Walsh had been introduced again. This time he turned a goal maker. A corner from the right-hand side, went to the back post. Walsh got a good header, headed across goal, and Killian Browder, the Limerick man, made absolute no mistake from close range. You felt like Galway might push on after that, but instead it was a bit more of the same, really. Scrappy affair, struggled to get any sort of combination of passes together, but held off. It was a complete roll up the sleeves to play. Former Cove player Charlie Lyons was introduced as well, just to give you an indication right at the end, where it was pretty much attack versus defence. Cove, as tidy as they were, didn't have really an effort on target, but certainly one of those games where you file over must do better. But full time here at Eamon DC Park, Galway United have another victory, but you feel like there's lots more to come and huge improvements are going to be needed if Galway are to stay in the position that they desire to be. But for here, at full time at Eamon DC Park, Galway United, thanks to a Killian Browder effort on the 68th minute, have beaten Cove by 1-0.
Perfect, Jonathan. Thank you for that report from all the action at Eamon DC Park. Now, another team, of course, chasing a title is Derry City. They were on the road this evening at Dalymount Park taking on Bohemians. Bohemians, of course, not having the best start to the season, sitting in 6th place with 1 win. Watching all of the action for us at Dalymount Park was Sean Crosby.
It's full time here at Dalymount Park. It finishes Bohemians 1, Derry City 2. Derry City maintained their 100% record for the season on a night where it really didn't look like that was going to be the case at some points. Bohemians came out in the first half and were exceptional all over Derry. They were aggressive and in their face, and they really dominated proceedings. Grant Horton almost catching Brian Maher off his line after about 3 minutes, and eventually they got their goal that was very well deserved. A lovely team move between Liam Burt, promised on the sharing alley, two nice 1-2s, cutting open the Derry City defence, and Liam Burt finishing off that chance.
Seems like we've lost Sean there signal-wise. We'll try and get him back in the meantime. But for now, we'll just go back to the First Division, where Wexford were in action against Cork City at Ferrycarry Park. Cork looking to continue their... I think we can go back to Sean. I think Sean is fixed up.
Right now.
You can hear us.
Yeah, Jordan Flores coming close as well after that opener. They went in the halftime lead with the lead. Derry would have been very disappointed not to be in it at all, really. The second half, Bows failed to maintain that pressure. The game kind of slowed a bit and seemed a bit more even, and Derry kind of started to come back into it a lot more, eventually finding an equaliser from Ronan Boyce, who headed in at Cameron McJannet Janet cross to level the score, and it swung the momentum of the game. Bowes looked a lot more sloppy, and you can see the frustration growing. Rory Feely, 15 minutes from time, almost summing that up when a clearance from him went haywire and lobbed James Talbot, but Talbot managed to clear the ball off the line to make sure the game stayed level. And it looked like it was going to finish 1-1, Derry dropping points for the first time this season, but it wasn't to be. With virtually the last kick of the game, James Akintunde, who come off the bench a few minutes before that, headed in off of another set piece, another cross, to give Derry all 3 points. And so Rory Higgins will be very happy with his side so that they've maintained their unbeaten streak. And it's disappointment once again for Bowes, who at times showed glimmers of great football but failed to hold on to anything there. So it finishes here, Bohemians 1, Derry City 2.
Perfect, Sean. Thank you for that report from Dalymount Park. The Dalymount Park Wi-Fi putting a bit of an April Fool's Day prank on Sean's report there. Apologies for the lack in coverage. Now we'll move on, as I mentioned there, to Wexford and Cork City at Carry Park. Of course, Cork look to continue their charge up the table, while Wexford, the surprise package in the division, were looking to claim a big scalp this evening. Watching for us was Aidan Delaney.
Yeah, thanks very much. Welcome to a very cold and wet and windy Carrick Park, where Wexford have been beaten. It's Cork City who take all 3 points with a 1-0 victory and go top of the table and stay top of the table thanks to a 1-0 win here. It was a game that was low on quality, it has to be said. The wind and rain starting to come in and really affect the game in the second half. But Cork scored early through Keane Murphy. It was a ball down the left-hand side. Keane Bargary, who was probably man of the match, he whipped in a ball with his right hand, with his right foot. Adam Wells just caught ball watching really on the back post for Wexford, and Keane Murphy. It wasn't a great header. It was a directed effort to Paul Hunt's left-hand side. And Hunt, when he looks back on that, he'll be disappointed that he didn't scramble across quick enough. It did nestle nicely into the corner, though, to give Cork that 1-0 lead with just 5 minutes on the clock. And really, that kind of killed the game then, because Cork were happy enough to sit back and maybe launch balls from Hakkinen and Kevin O'Connor, diagonals across the box. But it just wasn't a game full of quality. Wexford's best chance in the first half coming from a free kick on the left-hand side. It was whipped in by Jack Doherty, who was probably their best player today. He whipped the cross in, and it was Joe Manley who headed over. But it was never really a game where Wexford threatened David Harrington. He looked strong under the high ball, under crosses, free kicks. It didn't really matter. He was strong all game. Wexford did start to come back into it in the second half. The introduction of Conor Crowley sort of gave them that little bit more of a bite. There was a serious injury for Adam Wells there as well, who had to come off. He was replaced by Kevin McAvoy, and they'll need him going forward because Wells was really nice. He did get cut for the goal, but he had a decent game overall. Cork happy enough to just keep the ball down the wings. It was Olabi who came on there in the second half and started to really challenge. The real battle of this game came from the fullbacks for both sides, and it really wasn't a game of much quality. The best chance of the second half came for Rory Keating, who could have frustrated figure today. He's got 4 goals already in this league. Didn't add to it tonight and never really looked comfortable trying to chase balls that were being well dealt with by Manley and Cleary at the back for Wexford. But overall, Cork will be happy enough. They didn't have to strain themselves too hard to come away with the victory. And Wexford, this was a game they probably would have lost 4 or 5, conceding early in years gone by, but they've come away with a 1-0 loss, and they're kind of sick of the moral victories down here. But it's the victory itself that goes to Cork City. They've beaten Wexford 1-0 here at Carrick Park.
Thank you, Aidan, for that report from Carrick Park. Now, we had 9 games scheduled for this evening in both the First Division and the Premier Division, but one Women's National League fixture was rescheduled for this evening. That was the meeting of Peamount United and Wexford Youths at PRL Park. With a report from the game is Paul Regan.
Hello, Diarmuid. Peamount United tonight laid down a marker for the destination of the title as they produced a really dominant home performance against Wexford tonight, running out 4-0 winners. After a blistering start from Peamount, which they opened their scoring through a 5-minute goal from Sive Doyle, Wexford never really recovered, and Peamount's domination was complete throughout the first half. Further goals from Roach and a magnificent shot, which really was the goal of the game from McLaughlin for Peamount United, was the icing on the cake. Later on, Anya O'Gorman compounded the misery for Wexford with an injury time goal to seal the victory at 4-0. Peamount United have had a habit of blitzing their opponents early on, and really up front, great work from Roach, O'Gorman and Sive Doyle really steadied the ship for Peamount, and Wexford didn't really have any answers. Ellen Malloy had to drop deep from forward play into midfield to try and create chances, and at times she produced some great skill, but on her own it just wasn't enough, as Peamount were quite convincing winners, and with a 4-0 victory they've extended their 100% start to the season, and at the moment in the Women's National League they look the team to beat.
Perfect, Paul. Thank you for that report from the game at Peamount this evening. Now, another team looking to charge toward the top of the table in the men's Premier Division was St. Patrick's Athletic. They were in action against a struggling Drogheda this evening. Drogheda just a point above the relegation zone, looking for a big result tonight, while of course St. Patrick's were looking to continue their charge toward the top of the table. With a report from all of the action is Luke Delaney.
And it was a very frustrating night for the Saints and for Tim Clancy himself against his former side. And I think Drogheda set up very well. Sean Rowan and Evan Weir were very strong in the backs. And it did frustrate Pats even early on. And Drogheda took a lead after about 17 minutes through Dale Rooney. And it was some great work from Darren Nugent down that left-hand side. But his cross came into the box, and Pats just failed to clear. And they made a big mess up of the clearance. And Dale Rooney was there to poke home. And from here, that is probably what Drogheda wanted to do, nick an early goal and then maybe sit back. And they did it very well. And it was at stages, Pat struggled and they were kind of getting a lot of players to drop deep, and that was leaving them short when they probably should have been going in behind. And at times they probably had too many players trying to create and not enough trying to finish it off. And then Drogheda obviously went into the break with a 1-goal lead. And it was more of the same then in the second half. And that was right up until the end, and it was some great work from Dara Burns, who was very lively all day, and his movement just caused such hassle. And there was an Anto Breslin ball from the left wing, just into the 6-yard box, and Dara Burns was there to finish. But all in all, I think Tim Clancy will be a bit disappointed and very frustrated. But there was a lot of other results that could have gone worse for them. So I think they'll take the point after that first half.
Perfect. That report there from the game between St. Pat's and Drogheda. Now, one of the other games in action tonight, it was a mouth-watering tie in the first division between Waterford and Longford. Third place Waterford taking on fourth place Longford. Definitely an entertaining tie to see who could get the bragging rights and move further up the table if possible. With a report from all of the action is Denise O'Flaherty.
Hi, and it really was an action-packed game at the RSC, and ahead of goal from substitute Louis Britton earned Waterford a dramatic draw against Longford Town at the RSC. Britton rose highest to connect to Junior's corner in the 4th minute of stoppage time. It was hard on the Town, who looked to have held on for the 3rd win in a row, but Waterford's persistence deservedly paid off, and it was a much-needed result for the home side, who had lost their previous 2 games to Munster rivals Treaty United and to Cork City. Longford Town defender Shane Elworthy had marked his 100th appearance for the club with the game's opening goal in the 36th minute. Ryan Graydon, who had a fantastic game throughout, he burst through and hit a superb strike that came off the crossbar. Darren Craven's header on the rebound was cleared off the line, but it fell nicely to Elworthy and he fired home from close range. It was a positive start from both sides. Sam Verdon, actually within seconds of the start, brought a save out of Blues keeper Brian Murphy. Then the pace of the game then dipped, and despite creating, and neither side actually had many chances, and neither keeper was forced into making any save of note before Town then took the lead. Waterford tried to get back into the game in the second half, but were thwarted on a number of occasions by Town keeper Luke Dennison. Dennison, though, can count himself quite lucky to escape with a yellow card in the 64th minute when he came rushing out of his box and appeared to clip Cian Kavanagh. He was, though, eventually beaten right at the end when Britton headed home, as I said, from Junior's corner.
Perfect, Denise. Thank you for that report from the action between Waterford and Longford. Now, finishing up the action tonight, we had the final game, which kicked off at 8 o'clock between Finn Harps and Shamrock Rovers. Shamrock Rovers, of course, looking for a big result to get back to where they deem they should be, toward the top of the table, while Finn Harps were looking to try and get out of the relegation zone with a point this evening. Watching for us was our reporter, Sam Curtin.
Hi, Diarmuid, and yes, well, Shamrock Rovers, Finn Park has been a bit of a graveyard for them in recent years, losing last season there by a goal to nil. It's always been a difficult place for teams to go, but this evening they pretty much banished those goals, so to speak. Well, the game, it really caught fire nearly straight away. Graham Burke nearly put the visitors ahead on 3 minutes. His long-range effort forced a fantastic save out of Mark McGinley, and they had a great kind of mini battle between themselves throughout the evening. 3 shots in total for Burke in the first half, and 3 brilliant saves, in fairness, for McGinley, but there will be further drama later on, which we'll get to in a moment. Nze probably had Finn Harp's best chance in the first half when he used his footwork and his power to get past the Shamrock Rovers defence, and he's a great shot just outside the 18-yard box, but it hit the post and it came back out, and from there really Rovers continued to dominate, although Finn Harps, to their credit, were really resolute in the defence. Conor Tourish in particular was fantastic for the hosts, some heroic defending a la Richard Dunn against Russia all those years ago in that famous World Cup qualifier. But Rovers did land that sucker punch on the stroke of half time, and it was Andy Lyons who got on the end of Jack Byrne's corner, coming in at the near post and heading it past McGinley to put Rovers ahead just before the break. In the second half, in fairness, Finn Harps were more competitive, and they had a great chance on the hour mark through Ethan Boyle, whose powerful header, he got on the end of Rob Slevin's cross, forced a save out of Alan Manis, who had to tip the ball over the bar for a corner. But from then on, it really was the Shamrock Rovers show, and the Andy Lyons show in particular. He got his second goal of the evening on 79 minutes. A real touch of quality, linking up with Alan Gaffney to get Rovers' second goal. Great finish as well there to really seal the points from there. And well, the hosts, their efforts or their woes were compounded, I suppose, in 85 minutes when Mark McGinley was sent off for a challenge. He came out and he brought down Graham Burke, who was coming through on goal, and he probably had the last laugh in their battle this evening. So red card, Bastian Harry going in goals as a makeshift goalkeeper for Finn Harps. They'd already used up their 3 substitutions. Graham Burke slotted home the resulting penalty for a 3-0 lead, and that's how it finished at Finn Park this evening. Comfortable night for Shamrock Rovers, who got their title charge back on track. It finished at Finn Park this evening. Finn Harps 0, Shamrock Rovers 3.
Perfect, Sam. Thank you for that report from all of the action there between Shamrock Rovers and Finn Harps. Now, that, of course, is the final result, our final report, from all our Around the Grounds this evening. We'll just give a quick, brief run through the results from this evening's games across the 3 divisions. In the Premier Division, Bohemians and Derry City finished level in that one. Dundalk and UCD, a big 2-0 win there for Dundalk. Sligo Rovers and Shelbourne, is a big 1-0 win for Shelbourne, a much needed win for Damien Duff's side this evening. St Patrick's Athletic and Drogheda, of course, drawing as well at Richmond Park. And it was 1-1 as well between Bowes and Derry as well. My apologies for that one. And Finn Harps and Shamrock Rovers, as Sam had mentioned there, the result of that one there is 2-0 for Shamrock Rovers. In the first division, Athlone Town and Bray was another score draw, 1-1. It finished there at the Athlone Town Stadium. A much needed point for Athlone, it has to be said, in that division. Galway, of course, keeping their record on track with a 1-0 win over Cove this evening. Waterford and Longford, Waterford snatching a late point in that one, while Cork City continued their challenge at the top of the league table with a 1-0 win away at Wexford. And the Women's National League, of course, Peamount United picked up a 4-0 win over Wexford. Now, we'll just take a look at the league tables to see the positions after this evening's games. And we'll take a look first at the Women's National League table, where, as I mentioned, Peamount United are top on 15 points. And obviously, the remaining league games will take place tomorrow, with Peamount United looking dominant at the top of the league table, of course, with the 5 wins so far in that one. I will just take a look At the Premier Division table next, where Derry City are on top at 17 points. Shamrock Rovers have climbed up the league table, should I say. They are up from 4th to 2nd place, while Sligo slipped down to 4th. St. Patrick's Athletic, of course, in 3rd. No change toward the bottom half of the league table, but Bohs do slip down into 7th place as Shelburne climb up thanks to their victory this evening. And we'll finally just take a look at the First Division league table as well, where, as I mentioned, Cork City, of course, are continuing their dominance toward the top of the table, currently on 19 points as it stands this evening. Their 6th win of the season, while Galway United are now 5 points behind. Of course, they have the game in hand, while Waterford's draw this evening keeps them within 3 points of Galway. No major changes at the bottom, but Bray Wanderers, of course, do leapfrog Treaty and go into the playoff spots, but Treaty United are in action on Monday against Athlone Town as it stands. And we'll just take a look at some of the statistics as well. In the Premier Division, where Aidan Keena remains the top goal scorer in the league, but Jamie McGonigal and Graham Burke are behind him with 4 goals apiece. And then bringing up the rear, we have Will Patching, Patrick Hooban, Stephen Bradley, and Promise Omacheri, who are all on 3 goals apiece. And looking toward the First Division player statistics as well, Barry Coffey, Rory Keating, and Junior all on 4 goals apiece, as well as Benin O'Brien, Whitmarsh, and Enda Curran of Treaty United. Hard to separate the top goal scorers in that division as it stands at the moment, but we'll move on and we'll look ahead toward the fixtures. As I mentioned, of course, the Women's National League, one game took place tonight, but we have games tomorrow, starting with Sligo against Bohemians, Shelburne taking on Cork City. I think we might have my fixtures might be wrong. That might be last week's fixtures, but we look ahead anyway to the Premier Division. On Monday, the 4th, as I mentioned, UCD take on Derry, Finn Harps take on Drogheda, and then on Tuesday, we have Sligo Rovers taking on Bohemians. That's kind of like a midweek round of games. And then, of course, on Friday, we're back to a full round of games again. Drogheda United taking on Bohemians, Shelburne taking on Shamrock Rovers. St. Pat's, of course, are in action there as well. And on Saturday, Finn Harps take on Derry and Sligo take on UCD as well. And in the First Division on Monday, we have Treaty, as I mentioned, taking on Athlone Town. And on Friday, it's Bray Wanderers against Treaty. Cove Ramblers are in action against Waterford. And then on the Saturday, April the 9th, we have Galway United taking on Wexford at 5 p.m. And then we have Longford, taking on Athlone Town at 7:30. And as I mentioned, we do have Women's National League action again tomorrow. We will have an Around the Grounds for you again tomorrow, around maybe the 4 o'clock mark, but just make sure to turn on notifications across your social media platforms of when we go live with our live stream. And of course, we'll be back Monday and Tuesday night, as well as coming to you next Friday night as well, to bring you all of the action. So stay tuned across the various platforms, Finalwhistle.ie platforms, to check out on all of that. And of course, all our reports from tonight's games will be available on the Finalwhistle.ie website, as will all of the action tomorrow in the Women's National League and the games that are coming up as well, of course, starting of next week. Thank you for tuning in this evening, and hopefully we'll be tuning in again over the next couple of days when we bring you more Around the Grounds. But until next time, goodbye.